Hello and welcome to our latest edition of GreenFleet Talks. My name is Kate Armitage and I'll be hosting the conversation today, but more importantly I'm joined by David Watts, who's Electric Truck Sales Manager at Pelican Engineering. David, it's a pleasure to speak to you again.
Hi Kate, yes, it's great to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but it's also been a very long time because you and I have known each other for many years.
Yeah, too many years to count.
Well, I'm pleased that you're here. For the benefit of our viewers, would you like to just give an overview of all things David Watts and your latest role at Pelican Engineering and what you've been up to?
Sure, no, thanks for that. Yes, so I'm the electric truck sales manager here at Pelican Engineering. I've been in the fleet industry for getting on for 30 years now, but more pertinently to this, I've been involved in fleet decarbonisation, electrification for nearly 20 years, which I guess puts me in a relatively small pot of people. Just for some context, I was first talking to fleets about electrification before the Nissan Leaf was launched. So when people say it's hard, I think that, they've got no idea as to how hard that conversation can be. So most of my career has been spent in sort of sub 3.5 ton cars and van world, but I've spent the last 18 months or so in trucks, and I joined Pelican Engineering at the beginning of the year to launch their new 7.5 ton electric truck project, which is proving to be an exciting time. And that's through their partnership with Yutong, which people may or may not know anything about.
Well, and let's just pause there for a minute, David, because like you, we were talking about the Nissan Leaf before it existed in real life. So trying to sell a PowerPoint picture of an electric vehicle is one thing. But working with Yutong is at the other end of the spectrum, isn't it? How nice to be able to say, we're working in collaboration with a company that's got over 200,000 electric buses on the road globally and over 10,000 trucks on the road globally.
No, completely. It's so Pelican have been in partnership with Yutong for I think around about 12 years or so. Pelican is actually, for those who don't know, is a sort of 100-year-old family business. We think we're the oldest independent truck business in the UK. Can't be 100% sure, but we think we are. But yes, we've been in partnership with Yutong since for the last 12 or so years, bringing buses and coaches into the UK, and more recently focusing on electric buses and coaches. We've got over 2,000 vehicles on the ground across the country with various operators, and at least half of those are electric, which is a significant number of sort of large electric commercial vehicles in the UK, really, through us. Yutong is one of those large companies you've never heard of in that sense. They are the world's largest bus and coach manufacturer. As you say, they've got more than 200,000 electric vehicles on the ground across the world, across 100 different countries. They are only a commercial vehicle manufacturer. They don't do cars, but it's commercial vehicles across the board, from light trucks to buses and coaches to mining vehicles, you name it, they do it. Yes, they've been very focused on electric, well before most sort of more conventional OEMs have been thinking about it. So they first launched an electric bus back in 1999. So again, just to give us some context, that was when the Prius was launched, the Toyota Prius. So when sort of more mainstream manufacturers were first toying with hybrid, they were already launching into large electric commercial vehicles, and therefore, they've got 25 years of experience of doing that. And all that experience has sort of been built into this new truck that we've brought to the UK market. And light trucks is not a new thing for Yutong. They are the third largest supplier of electric light trucks into the Chinese market, doing almost twice as many electric light trucks into China alone than all other brands do into the European market. So they are well ahead of the game in that sense, in terms of understanding what the requirements are and developing that technology. All the technology is a key thing about Yutong, actually, compared to other OEMs, which is really important to sort of note, is that they are genuinely vertically integrated. and I know sort of people may not really understand what that means, but essentially it means that all the sort of core electric vehicle parts, if you like, the thing that makes it an electric vehicle, I don't mean brakes and sort of tires, they are designed and built by Yutong through this system called YEA that they call it, which basically is a software and hardware system that essentially means everything talks to each other. So they don't have the same challenges that other OEMs have, cars, vans, or trucks, where you're buying bits from other manufacturers, other suppliers, and you've got to get all those things to talk to each other. So that puts them, they are the only commercial vehicle manufacturer that produces that is vertically integrated and designs and builds their own electric vehicles in that sense. So and all that technology and all that development across all those vehicles all feed in. It's all the same technology that goes across the whole piece. So whilst we're bringing a new 7.5 ton truck to the market, this is a truck that's 25 years in development in principle, because it's
all that knowledge, all those learnings, they know batteries inside, they know exactly what they're capable of doing. It's absolutely fantastic. Let's switch our attention back to the UK, David. Yep. So you've mentioned this 7.5 ton truck. I think I'm right in saying that it's eligible for the plug-in truck grant.
Plug-in truck grant, yes. So we've just achieved that, which is obviously great news, because that makes a significant difference to the operator in terms of just getting them over those not necessarily perceived, but sort of potential financial barriers that they may see on that upfront cost. So for those who don't know, the plug-in truck grant is 20% of the truck price up to a maximum of 16,000. So in reality, at that 16,000. You're maxing out the 16,000 regardless. Yeah. So that's that makes a significant benefit to an operator. So
it really does, and we don't know how long that grant's going to last for. I don't think so.
Officially, as it stands right now, it lasts until the end of March. So as long as an order is placed before the end of March, you've then got 12 months to get it delivered and built and everything else. Whether or not it then gets extended again, I guess we shall see in the budget and onwards, I suppose. Given the state of the truck, given where we're at in the truck market in terms of transition to EV, one would like to think we'll get another 12 months extension on it. If only because we know they haven't spent the money. So in reality,
that's interesting, isn't it?
So there is still, when I checked a couple of weeks ago, there's still a noticeable, because there's a limit on the number of grants they give. It's not an unlimited pot in that sense. There's a limited number of grants available. And there were plenty. That's when I checked. So my guess is they're not going to spend it all by the end of March. What would like to think, if they're trying to promote this sector to try and kickstart it into action, that they'll continue to support it. So fingers crossed.
Crossed. Great. Okay. And for your truck in particular, who's kind of your ideal customer? What's the sweet spot, if you like?
It's interesting because the 7.5 ton sector crosses a lot of different industries, which I'm starting to learn all about. Clearly, sort of courier parcel delivery type businesses are a key sector. When you look at sort of the registrations of vehicles in this sector, boxes and curtain side vehicles are the vast majority of the registrations of the bodies that are built. So that clearly sort of lends itself towards delivery type businesses. And actually, delivery in the broadest sense, because it doesn't have to be a courier or a logistics company. There are lots of businesses that do their own deliveries within their own network, if you like, retail businesses or people who are supplying stores, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that going on. Equally, the food services industry is is huge. So essentially, probably refrigerated boxes. There's a lot of those that operate 7.5 tons because they are going into towns and cities and restricted areas in that sense, in terms of from maneuverability perspective. So it seems to be very popular in that. And then, of course, you've got sort of waste management in every sense of the word. So people with tippers and cages and municipal stuff, councils. So that's quite a big sector. So it's an interesting space, because it's definitely not a one size fits all. There's lots of opportunities. It's one of those areas where it's not a huge part of the overall truck market. It's roughly about, up to 7.5 ton is roughly about 10% of the overall market. But it's a significant proportion in that sense. And there's lots of different industries that are operating that size of vehicle.
And it feels like a good place to start. In that sense. So I don't want to labour the point, David, not least of which because it shows how long you and I have both been in this industry. But kind of, what do you sort of see as the lessons learned? What can we take away from the fantastic growth that we've seen in the passenger car market, and then kind of more latterly the slightly slower development of the van market, now trucks? What can we learn? How can we do it better with trucks?
Yeah, sure. I think the key thing is we haven't learned from how the van market has developed over the last 7 or 8 years, which has taken the time, but it's now starting to really progress very well. And the key thing really is who has been successful in the van world and who has found it challenging. And the ones that are finding it, that are being most successful, are those operators that are depot based. And it's a back to base type operation. And particularly in your small and medium vans that are back to base. The ones who find it challenging are the ones who are not back to base, because they're going to, the vans may well be perfectly capable of doing the job in terms of payload and range for the vast majority of use cases, but when it goes home with a driver and they can't charge it up at home for a variety of reasons, then that creates challenges. So the operators that have been or the use cases that have been successful are back to base operations and sort of in the small and medium vans. So when we sort of translate that to trucks, you kind of go, well, why are we so focused on the really heavy trucks that are very expensive, operationally challenging from a range perspective, require high-powered charging infrastructure on site? Your overnight charge on a 600 kilowatt hour battery, tractor unit is a 50 kilowatt charger. And then, of course, you've got the electrical capacity site challenges that most operators are going to face with putting that sort of charging infrastructure in. So you kind of go, well, why aren't we learning from the van world and going, well, actually, there's a light truck sector that has much smaller batteries, are typically back to base, not 100%, but typically back to base. The routes are generally not 100% again, but many of the routes are well within the ranges of what electric trucks can do these days. And you kind of go, well, the narrative, the whole focus, if anything that you read anywhere, just seems to be completely focused on big trucks. And I know we have to tackle that, and that's a long-term strategic sort of transition. We can't just ignore it for now. And I know that the majority of the emissions are there, and the majority of the miles are there, and that's why they're really important. But they are a long-term transition. Whereas we could make some really significant impact from a carbon and particularly from an air quality perspective, because many of these vehicles are operating in urban areas of some sort of sense or other. And you kind of go, well, actually, we can make some really big steps forward by focusing on the light truck market, because the vehicles are more than capable of doing it. They are, because of the smaller batteries, they can AC charge overnight on a relatively low power charger, much cheaper charging infrastructure, much less likely to have the site electrical capacity challenges that we're seeing on the big trucks. Operators can make some real quick steps forward, and I appreciate most operators don't have large numbers of 7.5 ton. This tends to be a small number, but you could make those quick steps now, learn an awful lot from that experience while starting to think about how do I build my decarbonisation plan for the rest of my fleet. And it just feels like we sort of missed a trick, really, from going, well, we've learned an awful lot from vans, and we just ignored it completely and jumped straight to how do we electrify a 40-ton tractor unit? And it's like, well, yes, you can. And it's not to say you can't do it, and there's some really good activity going on in that space, but it is hard and challenging and expensive. And you kind of think, well, there's a whole section in the middle that is the natural next step from vans, and it's just the sweet spot. And you kind of go, well, why are we spending more time talking about that? Which is what I can do.
Yeah, well, and well done to you. Because you obviously we have GreenFleet live events, and to a certain extent, you're right. The time spent talking about what we can't do is overexposed, and not enough time is spent focusing on what can you do today. And I think maybe that's kind of a little bit of a red herring that gets thrown up by some of the operators who, the reason I haven't electrified my vans is because, I've got 5 big vans that are really difficult. And it's like, what about all the other vans that you're overlooking? So I think it will come. And I think you're right with the big demonstrator projects. I mean, they are trying to learn about the public infrastructure and all of those really difficult things, but that's not a reason necessarily to delay if you've got depot-based vehicles that are on a relatively short duty cycle.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's excellent.
The end, but actually the beginning, because what we're really looking for is, this time next year for you to look back and say, great, the 7.5 ton segment is really starting to take off.
No, and I'm confident that message is starting to get through. I was at an event for the last couple of days, quite a niche sort of industry event that I've not really sort of thought about. And we had our truck there, and people were sort of dismissing it as they were walking past. But then you sort of grab them and you start talking about them, and you suddenly realise, yes, they've got some large trucks, but yes, they have 3 or 4 smaller trucks. And then you start to talk about the implications of that, and then there's almost a light bulb moment that goes on, going, actually, yeah, we could do that. That's actually really that is really doable, and that's not such a big barrier that we thought it was, and actually we could actually do this really quickly. And so some really interesting conversations from that event, and it's always really pleasing. We've been talking about this nonsense for far too long, and it's always nice to be. I mean, it feels like I'm having the same conversations that I was having 20 years ago, but albeit to now a different audience. But it's always nice when you start talking to somebody who's willing to have a conversation, but that they're resistant, and or at least at the very least they've given this no thought at all, because they've just shut down from the conversation before, and then you sort of have that conversation, you can start to see that light dawning, going, everything I thought is not actually what is not 100% correct, and actually there are opportunities here, and actually I can see a way that I could do this. And it's not such a big problem that I thought it was going to be.
And it's right for more people than they realise, including themselves. Which is,
indeed. So.
David, it's always a pleasure talking to you. It's great to see you. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure to be here, and talk my usual stuff.
Thank you, of course, to Pelican Engineering for joining GreenFleet Talks, and thank you for watching. Please tune in to GF Television again soon.